Hi everyone, and welcome to the third video that's gone up this week, the first episode this season of From the Stewards Room. So it's a series around last year where just scroll through the BHA reports. If a horse runs well or runs badly, or an incident happens in a race that connections feel might have influenced the result, they are obliged to report it to the stewards. Quite often the stewards will summon people in and ask them for an explanation, and that's then documented and put up on the BHA website. I find it invaluable over the years to have a read of that pretty much each evening, and it's amazing how often something that you think has run badly and you couldn't see a reason at first glance, there's been a reason offered. Now, sometimes those reasons are materialistic and not worth paying note to, and sometimes they're perhaps a bit more detailed and a bit more informative and a bit more realistic. It's been a fairly quiet week this week, but there was 2 points of notice that I thought were pretty interesting for 2 different reasons. So it'll be a short video, but we'll get straight into them. On Monday's video, on the Monday review, I mentioned that 1 or 2 of Paul Nicholls' horses perhaps hadn't finished their races off as well as you might have expected. I put that largely down to the fact that he'll be building his horses forward till November, and also the soft ground that was at Chepstow might have just caught 1 or 2 out. But Iope Colonges, who ran in the novice handicap chase on the Friday, he stopped very, very quickly. Jumped really nicely on handicap debut actually, and chase debut, had thrown in some really exuberant leaps and had been very good when he got in tight as well, and I thought he was running a nice race, but halfway down the back straight at Chepstow it became apparent that he was starting to feel the pinch, or so it seemed, and then after jumping the last and dropping down the hill and round the bend, he stopped very, very quickly, went from first to last in a matter of strides and was very quickly pulled up. It was reported to the stewards that he was subsequently found to have an irregular heartbeat, and it doesn't need me to tell you that that would more than certainly explain the poor performance. The issue now is obviously getting that heartbeat sorted. Very often they'll sort themselves. Sometimes they need medical and veterinary intervention, which can be in the form of a quinine injection, or sometimes they'll have sort of electric pulse therapy. Paul Nicholls has, I'm sure, plenty of experience with this, but the most notable one was Denman, who was found to be suffering from an irregular heartbeat after his Gold Cup win. I think it was his first run the following season. He ran subpar, and he actually ended up going up to Newmarket, and Celia Marr, who is the veterinary specialist in this area, treated him with electric pulse treatment, and he made a full recovery. So the prognosis, I'm sure, very good for Iope Colonges. Just depends what his mentality is like. It's like us. If you do a piece of exercise and you find it particularly difficult and particularly unpleasant, you're perhaps inclined the next time to not fancy it quite so much. Same with horses. You know, he could very easily brush this off, and if he feels good next time, just get straight back to it. And equally, it can take a couple of runs for him to feel good again. Very much like with a wind up, that some horses feel the benefit on their very first start off a wind up, and some horses take 1, even 2 runs to realise they can breathe again. But I think that was definitely a reasonable explanation for his poor showing. And given how he jumped up until that point, he's certainly a horse that if he pops up in a novice handicap chase in a month or so's time, I certainly wouldn't be put off looking at him again. Then on Thursday the 12th of this month at Exeter, and I normally do these chronologically, but I'll leave this to the end because this doesn't really have a bearing on a result, but I thought it was just an interesting point of discussion really. Sid Hosey was fined £290 for failing to declare to the BHA that his filly, the Weddingcombe Weight, had undergone wind surgery, and he didn't do that until the filly was declared. Now, as it was, she ran poorly and she pulled up. It might well be that whatever issue she had, the wind surgery hasn't perhaps helped as much as they hoped. But it did strike me, and I'm not for a second saying that this is anything other than sort of poor sort of management on their part in terms of notifying the regular authorities. And you do see it from time to time. It's certainly not something that this is the first time I've seen. But it struck me that if you were trying to be unscrupulous as a set of connections, £290 as a fine would be fairly small fry compared to what you might potentially be able to take out of the ring if you were able to execute a bit of a gamble for knowing that your horse had wind surgery and no one else did. And it also brought me on to the technology and the perhaps sort of antiquated systems that maybe the BHA have. I've been around cattle and that sort of thing for many years, and I know that there's certainly technology that allows cattle to have ear tags with microchips in it, and any medication that cow is given is automatically uploaded that microchip, so the farmer hasn't got to document it in pen and paper. It's just on a system, and surely in a time where we got smartphones and QR codes for pretty much everything, it would be very simple to slowly but surely get sort of QR codes onto passports, so that anytime a vet administers medication or a procedure such as this, there's a code that they can upload onto a QR code in the passport, and when anyone wants to enter a horse, the QR code has to be scanned, and that would sort of stop these occasional things you get where horses have had medication and it's not out their system in time and they end up getting subsequently banned, and it would stop this sort of thing from happening either by accident or by design. So I thought that was interesting. Let me know what you think. I'm not for a second saying Sid Hosey has done that on purpose, and if he did, there was no gain to be had from it because she ran poorly anyway, but it did seem to me to be a fairly lenient fine when potentially there's a big upside to not notifying authorities. So that is the end of a very short From the Stewards Room this week. I'll be back again on Monday with a Monday review, Tuesday with handicap movers and shakers, and again next Wednesday with From the Stewards Room, where as I get more jumps racing done, I'm sure there'll be more things that crop up. So as ever, please hit a like, hit a subscribe if you've enjoyed this, tell your friends about it, and I'll see you soon.